More than 80 years have passed since the end of World War II, the last war that truly involved the entire world and also the bloodiest conflict in history, claiming approximately 70 to 85 million lives. After that, many countries signed agreements, formed alliances, and found ways to prevent such a tragedy from happening again. But it still doesn't seem to be enough. Right now, it seems like the world is once again sitting on the edge of another major war. Many experts have warned, and many world leaders are preparing for the worst possible scenario. In this video, we will reveal the 4 places where the next world war could possibly start, and why experts say this could be even more dangerous than all the wars that have happened before. But before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. This is a big help for us content creators. Thank you very much, and now let's get started. And we will begin with the most obvious and most aggressive force right now, Russia. Among all the major military powers in the world, Russia is often considered the most likely to start World War III, especially under its current president, Vladimir Putin. In recent years, Russia has shown this many times, that it doesn't care about international laws, the borders of other countries, or the rights of other nations to govern themselves. It invaded Georgia in 2008, took Crimea in 2014, and the most recent was the large-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. And, as the war goes on, Russia's ambitions grow even bigger. At first, Putin called it what he referred to as a special military operation. According to him, he said this was just a limited operation, supposedly to liberate Ukrainians and Russians in eastern Ukraine, and to save them from an allegedly brutal Nazi government. At first, he focused only on 4 areas: Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson. But that changed. As time went on, it became clear that wasn't all Putin wanted. Now it seems like the whole of Ukraine is the target. He even mentioned that Ukraine supposedly belongs to Russia. He says a buffer zone is needed at its borders, and he might even want to replace Ukraine's current government. His goal is to replace Ukraine's president, Volodymyr Zelensky, with a leader who will simply follow the wishes of the Kremlin, the center of power in Russia. In other words, it's not just a war that's happening. This is a battle for control of an entire country, now and for years to come. Despite this, up to now, no one is winning. There is still no peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. The West has tried many ways to end the war, but all have come to nothing. One of the latest attempts came from the President of America, Donald Trump, and according to many, this could even make the situation worse. In November, Trump released a 28-point peace plan aimed at ending the war in Ukraine. But this is what the plan contains. Ukraine would give a large part of its land to Russia, reduce the strength of its military, and never join NATO. Many leaders in Europe openly opposed this plan. According to them, too much was given to Russia while Ukraine was being forced to accept conditions that would weaken the country in the long run. One of those who spoke was Kaja Kallas, who said that the pressure should be on the attacker, not on the victim. European officials had another complaint. They were hardly consulted in making the plan. According to Felicia Schwartz of Politico, this is a document made by America with input from Russia. Europe's biggest fear is this: if this kind of deal is accepted, it will make the invasion of a country seem normal. And if that happens, Russia might be encouraged to attack other countries in the future. That's the fear of many. If Russia is given what it wants now, this might be the next target. In other words, they don't want to reward Russia for invading a smaller country. And it seems that fear is justified. A report from the Institute for the Study of War came out saying that Russia has no interest in a ceasefire at the moment. According to them, the Kremlin and Russian military commentators are rejecting the United States peace plan. And it's clear that Russia won't accept any kind of deal unless Ukraine fully surrenders. So it's not surprising why Vladimir Putin seems to want to continue the war. Yes, Russia is facing serious problems, an economic crisis, a shortage of workers, and many other issues. But despite this, their forces are still gradually advancing on the battlefield. The cost is still high. According to reports, more than 1.1 million Russian soldiers have been killed or wounded, and the number of destroyed or damaged tanks, armored vehicles, air defense systems, and other military equipment continues to rise. In short, both Russia and Ukraine are at a loss. But for now, there are still no signs that Russia is ready to withdraw. Even so, Vladimir Putin has long shown that he doesn't really care about the lives of his soldiers. He also doesn't worry much about how many Russian soldiers die or how many tanks, planes, and vehicles are lost. What really matters to him is power. As long as his war machine is making even a little progress, even if it's slow and small, for him, Russia's control is still expanding. And that's enough for him to keep going. On the other hand, Ukraine has been struggling lately. They have problems with a shortage of soldiers, government corruption scandals, and people are exhausted from a war that seems endless. Because of this, Putin is even less interested in peace deals. He not only rejected the offers, he also refused to meet with Donald Trump in person again in Budapest. Instead, he ordered his commanders to take advantage of the opportunity. What they did were bigger, more intense, and deadlier air attacks against the towns, cities, and infrastructure of Ukraine. And it didn't stop there. In recent months, NATO's defense has also been put to the test. There have been reports of Russian drones and even Russian jets crossing beyond Ukraine and entering the airspace of other countries, like Poland, Estonia, and Romania. In response, the Prime Minister of Poland warned that their country is the closest it has been to open war since World War II. NATO also released a statement saying that Russia has a pattern of reckless and dangerous behavior, actions that escalate tensions. Both sides could misread each other, putting lives at risk. Because of this, many countries on NATO's eastern side are already preparing. This includes Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Estonia, and Finland. All 5 countries have strengthened their border defenses and withdrawn from an agreement on landmines. This means they are ready to deploy mines and other defenses to make it difficult for anyone to try to enter their territory illegally. Because of this, fears are rising that one or more of these countries, especially the 3 Baltic states, could be the Kremlin's next target. But Russia might be thinking even bigger. Recently, Russia accelerated the production of new hypersonic missiles. These missiles are extremely fast and can hit targets more than 3,400 miles away. This means that almost all of Europe is within their range, and even some parts of the western United States. Aside from that, there's something else that Russia has done recently that's quite concerning. They have successfully tested a very dangerous weapon that many have feared for a long time. The Burevestnik nuclear-powered cruise missile, which some also call the Flying Chernobyl. This missile is powered by nuclear energy, and according to Russia, it has almost unlimited range. The problem is, its design is inherently dangerous. Because it is nuclear-powered, there is a high risk of a widespread nuclear disaster. Even if it hasn't exploded yet, there is no clear idea of how much damage it could cause, especially if it is used against Ukraine, the Baltic countries, or any country targeted by Russia. Vladimir Putin is boasting that because of this, Russia now has the most powerful nuclear arsenal in the world. Because of these signs, there is now a greater fear that Russia might attack a NATO country. NATO has an important policy called Article 5. This means that if one NATO member is attacked, it is considered an attack on all members. And since NATO has 32 countries, they are all obligated to help. At first glance, it seems like Russia is at a disadvantage when it's 32 against 1. But don't underestimate the danger. Russia still has the capability to cause massive damage and to ask for help from its allies. This includes North Korea, Iran, and possibly even China. And when it comes to China, Many experts believe that it is the second most likely to start World War III. One of those who warned is Jie Jisheng, a high-ranking defense official from Taiwan. He warned that if Russia expands its aggression in Ukraine, China could take advantage of this to attack Taiwan. In other words, Russia in Europe, China in Asia. And if that happens, two major crises could erupt at the same time. Many analysts are saying that the situation in Taiwan is becoming even more dangerous. Tensions have risen even more because of the tariff dispute between China and the United States and the cooling relationship between Donald Trump and Xi Jinping. For China, Taiwan is extremely important. Beijing believes that it is part of China's territory that should be recovered and unified. In recent years, China has become more aggressive towards Taiwan. They criticized its government and conducted live-fire military exercises in the Taiwan Strait. According to the British Broadcasting Corporation, these exercises are like rehearsals for a possible blockade that could cut off supplies and bring down the government in Taipei in the future. That's not all. China was also seen conducting military drills near Vietnam and Australia and testing equipment that seemed intended for a real invasion of Taiwan. This includes new landing barges for deploying soldiers and deep-sea cable cutters that could sever Taiwan's communication with the world. Meanwhile, the United States openly supports Taiwan. The United States provides money, weapons, and political support. Because of this, the situation is getting even more heated, and more people believe that a major conflict is getting closer and closer. In short, it's not just one region that's at risk anymore. If Russia and China act at the same time, the whole world could be affected. Many experts believe that China might attack Taiwan by 2027. There's a reason why that year is being mentioned. It's the 100th anniversary of the founding of the People's Liberation Army, China's main military force. For China, that year is important in their history. But if China really tries to take Taiwan, it won't happen without obstacles. Because the first thing they'll face is the United States. United States officials have repeatedly said they're ready to defend Taiwan no matter what. China knows this too. According to Time magazine, attacking Taiwan is a huge risk because it could lead to a direct war. But even so, it seems China still isn't being deterred. Instead, they're already preparing for a possible conflict. Right now, China has the largest navy in the world, and they're continuously strengthening other parts of their military. They're spending a lot on new missiles and modern military technology to defend themselves and, if necessary, attack their enemies. China also plans to further expand its nuclear arsenal, which is now causing concern. It's estimated to have around 600 nuclear warheads. According to Siddharth Kaushal of the Royal United Services Institute, this makes the situation even worse for the United States. The reason is, if China and Russia join forces, they will have more nuclear weapons than the United States. And even before China could possibly start a world war, there is another country in Asia that could trigger a crisis first. That is North Korea. Even though North Korea is small compared to other powerful countries, it is still a nuclear power. In recent years, North Korea has been relentless in strengthening its military. They manufacture and test cruise missiles and ballistic missiles, which means missiles that can travel very long distances. Yes, many of their designs are said to have problems, but there are some that can reach distant countries and bring war beyond Asia. In the south of the Korean peninsula, South Korea is becoming even more concerned. According to Lee Jae-myung, the situation there is very dangerous. He also said that war could break out at any time. In other words, it's not just one place that's in danger. Many regions are heating up at the same time, and if just one makes a wrong move, the whole world could be affected. According to Lee Jae-myung, North Korea refuses to talk even though South Korea keeps calling to calm the situation. Not only that, North Korea also deployed troops, barbed wire along their military border, something that hasn't happened since the Korean War. It's even more dangerous because North Korean soldiers have entered South Korean territory several times. According to Reuters, There have been more than 10 border intrusions this year, and in some cases, South Korean soldiers were forced to fire warning shots according to their usual protocol. Because of this, a major war becomes more possible. It only takes one mistake. If a North Korean soldier is hit by a bullet and dies, Pyongyang could suddenly retaliate. They could launch missiles and other attacks toward the south. Many fear that this is exactly what the leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, is preparing for. In recent years, he has lost interest in the peaceful reunification of North and South Korea. Because of this, South Korea was also forced to change direction. They ended an agreement in 2018 that aimed to reduce military tensions on the Korean peninsula. According to a report by The Independent, Kim Jong-un's government repeatedly rejects calls from Seoul and Washington to resume peace talks aimed at reducing North Korea's nuclear weapons and missile programs. Instead, Kim Jong-un prefers to strengthen ties with Russia as part of a policy to counter the influence of the United States. Even more alarming, North Korea is actively helping Russia in its war against Ukraine. Pyongyang has sent thousands of soldiers, engineers, and workers to fight on the front line or help repair Russia's damaged infrastructure. North Korea is also one of Russia's biggest supporters. They sent large supplies of ammunition and other military equipment to keep the Kremlin's war machine running. As they help, their relationship with Putin's government grows even stronger. Many experts are concerned about what North Korea might get in return for this support. For now, North Korea has already received financial aid from Russia, which helped them avoid a severe food shortage. But there are bigger concerns. It's also possible for North Korea to acquire modern military technology or advanced weapon systems from Russia, which could greatly strengthen its armed forces. And if that happens, the entire region will become even more dangerous. Despite this, as time goes by, North Korea continues to produce and launch more missiles. It's not just missiles. They also showcase their new warship called the Choi-Hyun-class destroyer. It's a large warship that is said to be capable of launching nuclear ballistic missiles, which means missiles with nuclear warheads that can hit targets very far away. Because of this, North Korea's plans are becoming even more dangerous. According to Sean Kenji Stars, a teacher from King's College London, a scenario where China forces North Korea to attack South Korea is more likely to happen. Why? Because if a war breaks out on the Korean peninsula, the United States' attention will be divided, and it will be easier for China to take action against Taiwan. But World War III might not only start in Asia. According to many experts, the fourth and last dangerous place is the Middle East. In recent years, wars and conflicts have erupted one after another in Iran, Iraq, Gaza, Yemen, and other countries. Even though Donald Trump tried to push for an agreement between Israel and Hamas, the attacks from both sides have not stopped. Meanwhile, the threat of Iran's nuclear program still remains. In June, the United States launched airstrikes against Iran's nuclear facilities. This means they bombed places connected to the production of nuclear weapons. At first, Trump said that Iran's nuclear capability was almost destroyed. But later on, it was proven that this was not true. According to reports, Iran still holds almost 1,000 pounds, or 440 kilograms, of highly enriched uranium, a type of material that can be used to make nuclear weapons. According to Paul Ingram from the University of Cambridge, Iran most likely moved the uranium before the bombing, and the facilities weren't really destroyed. They just became harder to access. As a result, Iran was only slightly affected, but their motivation to develop nuclear weapons became even stronger. In addition, according to Ingram, Iran feels surrounded. Why? Because of their proxy groups. This means groups that support and fight for them. Groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Gaza have been heavily hit by Israel. Because of this, there are stronger calls within Iran to develop nuclear weapons as a deterrent and protection against their enemies. Another warning came from Andy Sterling from the University of Sussex. According to him, it is possible that Iran, North Korea, or Russia could use nuclear weapons in the future. He said it directly. We've been living under nuclear threat for a long time, and the day will come when the world's luck will run out. Overall, the situation in the world is becoming even darker. Every day, the possibility of World War III gets closer. The only remaining questions are where will it start, how will it break out, and how will it end? Even so, if you notice, most of what the world fears are the big explosions, missiles, invasions, and open war. But the truth is, there's an even scarier possibility, a war that's not immediately obvious. The kind where you wake up one day and suddenly the power is out, there's no signal, banks are in chaos, and food prices are all tangled up. Then that's when you'll start to feel that, hey, something has already started. So before we think about where World War III might begin, there's a more important question first. What are the silent things that could ignite everything? Even without the first shot first, let's talk about cyber attacks. That means attacks using computers and the internet to destroy the enemy's systems. It's not like a gunfight, but its effects can be even more serious. For example, if the power grid, which is a country's electricity system, suddenly gets hacked, an entire city could experience a blackout. When the power goes out, it affects water supply, hospitals, traffic lights, cell phone towers, and even factories. And if a country believes that this is state-sponsored, meaning the government itself is behind it, it could trigger a retaliatory attack. The problem is, in cyber, it's not always clear who is really behind it. Sometimes a group can do something and make it look like another country is to blame. And if one side accuses the wrong party, the conflict can escalate quickly. Second, there's disinformation. That means deliberately spreading false information to confuse people. When there's tension and leaked documents, secret audio, or breaking news that's not even true spreads quickly. Imagine if news spreads about a dead diplomat, a targeted base, or a fake attack order. People could panic, leaders could be pressured, and they might be forced to make decisions that haven't been verified. In real life, sometimes a leader doesn't act because he wants to. He acts because he's afraid of looking weak in the eyes of the people and his allies. Third, let's talk about miscalculation. It means a wrong reading of the enemy's moves. This is one of the most common reasons for sudden wars in history. For example, there's an aircraft that approaches to intercept. That's when you block or drive away a plane that's coming close to your airspace. Sometimes it's just routine. But if there's a pilot who's nervous, tired, or just new, he might make a wrong move. One wrong turn, one wrong warning flare, one wrong radar lock-on, it could look like a real attack. If an aircraft gets hit or crashes, it's automatic. Anger will rise, pressure will increase, and the calls for retaliation will get louder. And it's not just in the air. At sea, especially in areas crowded with military ships, there's what they call kumakas. It's a risk, the danger of collision. If two naval ships collide, even by accident, propaganda can present it as intentional. Then the other side will respond, then allies will join in until it escalates. Fourth, there's a quiet line in the world that almost no one notices. Undersea cables. These are the cables under the sea that carry internet and a lot of financial data. If these cables are cut, the internet can slow down or disappear. In some countries, banks can have issues, business communications can break down, and military coordination can be affected. And what's more dangerous is that it's hard to immediately prove if it was an accident, a storm, or intentional. But if a country suspects that it was sabotage, it means it was deliberately destroyed. They can consider it an act of aggression. Here you can see, even without missiles, conflict can start. Fifth, space. When we say space, it's not sci-fi, it's practical. Many countries depend on satellites for navigation, for communication, for surveillance. A satellite is like an eye and a signal tower above the world. If a satellite suddenly gets jammed, meaning its signal is blocked, the accuracy of navigation can decrease, military units can lose communication, and information on the battlefield can become unclear. It's even more dangerous if there's an anti-satellite test, which is the destruction of a satellite in space. If this happens in the middle of tensions, it can be considered the first step of a bigger war, like the economic trigger. It means it's about money that can ignite conflict. There are places in the world that, if blocked, everyone will feel it. For example, shipping routes where fuel, food, and raw materials pass through. When a blockade starts, it means ships are prevented from passing through. The prices of oil, rice, and other goods can go up. And when people start to go hungry or suffer, countries are forced to take action. Sometimes it's no longer about ideology, but simply because people need to survive. Seventh, modern war today is no longer just about soldiers. Drones are a big factor. Unmanned aircraft controlled by people or systems, used for surveillance or attacks. The problem with drones is that they can be used without you knowing who is behind them. Sometimes a drone might fly over sensitive areas, and you don't know if it's a prank, a rebel group, or a state actor. If you shoot it down, the other side might say you attacked them. If you don't shoot it down, something bad might happen. So even with simple decisions on what to do, there's a risk of escalation. Eighth, there's one thing that makes the situation even more chaotic: the speed of decision-making. Now, because of social media, breaking news, and real-time footage, it feels like leaders are always being rushed. But in war, decisions shouldn't be rushed. When things are rushed, there's a higher chance of misinformation. And when the information is wrong, the response will also be wrong. In real life, sometimes one wrong night can start a very long conflict. And this is where the big point comes in. A lot of people think that World War III will just suddenly go boom one day, but it's actually more realistic that it will be like dominoes. First, cyber. Second, response. Third, disinformation. Fourth, miscalculation at the border or at sea. Fifth, economic shock. Then that's when open conflict comes in. So if you ask where it will start, sometimes the answer is we won't immediately notice when it actually began. What we'll see are just the effects. The markets crash, supply chains are disrupted, there's a blackout, people panic, and the military is mobilized. And if there's one lesson even a child can remember, it's that when countries are both afraid and angry, even a small spark can grow into something big. And nowadays, the spark could be a hacked system, a fake news story, an accidental collision, or a warning that's misread.